How are we doing today, folks? A very happy Friday, and hope you all had a great Thanksgiving celebrating it with your friends and family. Hopefully you were able to forget that horrendous loss from the Bulls against the Rockets, even though I guess I just reminded you of it. But hopefully for the Bulls, they will be able to bounce back tonight and give us a strong win against a struggling Orlando Magic team, but I'm not going to get my hopes up just yet. But anyway, in today's video, back by popular demand, I've had multiple people message me, when are you going to start the Would You Rather series up again? A lot of you really like that type of content, so in today's video, we're going to be going over your Bulls Would You Rather scenarios and my reactions to them. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Bull Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now guys, there are a lot of these that were submitted when I started this a couple weeks ago, and so I'm going to try and go through as many as possible, which means some of these I might answer fairly quickly, while others I might discuss a bit more in detail. But let's get us kicked off with our first Would You Rather, and that comes to us from B Cubs 1948, which I actually think is an imposter from the original B Cubs who started the Bull Central Discord. I have one from him a little bit later on in the video, but the ask is, would you rather have traded Kobe in 2008 or signed LeBron in 2010? Wow, this is a really good one. Now, I think I might have mentioned this in the last Would You Rather video, because that Kobe trade was brought up in one of those as well. And I mentioned how at the time, when all those rumors were going down, I absolutely despised Kobe Bryant as a player and didn't want anything to do with him on the Bulls. However, he's still Kobe Bryant. So I was conflicted because I knew it would make the Bulls relevant again. That being said, though, in this scenario, I'd have to go with signing LeBron in 2010. One, because LeBron would have been much younger at the time in 2010. I think he would have been around 26, whereas Kobe, even if they did make that trade for him in 2008, which I actually believe it was 2007, but he would have already been entering his 30s. On top of that, the Bulls would have had to trade assets in order to get Kobe, whereas with LeBron, you could have signed him outright as a free agent. And the lineup of LeBron, Rose, Noah, and Dang, all in their primes, just seems so much deadlier to me than trading for Kobe. Next, we've got Jay Joseph. Would you rather Zach or DeMar win MVP and the Bulls make the Eastern Conference Finals, or someone else win MVP and the Bulls make the finals? Yeah, the Bulls making the finals easily. I don't really care if one of those guys wins MVP. I just want to see my team win, bottom line. Like, the year Rose won the MVP and the Bulls lost in the Eastern Conference Finals, yes, it was incredible to see one of our own be recognized as having won the MVP, but I would have much rather seen someone like LeBron win MVP and see us beat LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals than the other way around. Next, we've got Yao Ming. Well, hello there, Yao. Would you rather Coby White or Tyler Hero? I mean, I think this one is pretty easy at this point, especially with the kind of season that Hero has been having so far. With his inconsistent play that we've seen even from Kobe last season before he got injured. Yeah, I would much prefer Tyler Hero than Coby White. By the way, guys, all of these that I have been covering right now are from the Discord. You can also leave your Would You Rather scenarios in the Discord. Feel free to join it if you haven't already. The link to that can be found in the description. But this next one comes to us from Shizno. If you could either undo the Daniel Gafford or Bobby Portis trade, which would it be? This is an interesting one because you guys all know I was super high on Daniel Gafford last season, but at the same time, I think most will agree that overall Bobby Portis is a better player between the two, especially after seeing the way that he performed in last year's finals with the Bucks. I think Portis' energy, his size, his ability to play both ends of the floor would be huge for this Bulls team right now. I mean, you could say the same thing for Gafford too, but if I had to choose between the two trades to undo, I'd do the Portis trade. There's the real B Cubs. B Cubs 1939. Would you rather go back in time and reverse the Jimmy Butler trade by Acme at that time, or be where we are now? This is a really good one. I mean, you kind of have to say you reversed the Jimmy Butler trade and have started with Acme back in 2017, because you have to think that this current front office, meaning Acme, would have been competent enough to actually build around Jimmy Butler, and we would have saved all of those miserable years in which the Bulls quote-unquote tanked, all but to get unlucky in the lottery and land with the number 7 pick every year. Next, we've got not a 6-foot football player. Interesting name choice. Would you rather trade back for Thaddy Daddy or D Rose? Well, just to be clear, the Bulls actually can't trade back for Thad, even if they wanted to, as the CBA rules prevent them from doing so. But let's say for a moment that they could. Between Thaddeus Young and Rose, I mean, Rose is clearly the better player. It would be an incredible story to have him back in Chicago, and he could be very useful and impactful as a scorer off the bench. But with the way the Bulls and how they're currently constructed, you'd have to think that Thaddeus would make more sense given our front court issues and the loaded backcourt we have. So in this scenario, I'm going to go with trading back for Thaddeus Young, but I do acknowledge and agree that Rose is clearly the better player. It's just that Thaddeus we would have much more of a use for. Next, we've got Axel Isen, Trae Young, or Ja Morant for the Bulls. I feel like most people are going to disagree with me on this one, but I actually would rather have Ja. I think a lot of it is because I'm not a fan of Trae Young's game. He plays absolutely zero defense. His play style of foul baiting drives me insane, and in my opinion, especially now with the new foul baiting rules, I think Ja Morant has more upside potential with his sheer athleticism, his ability to not only be a strong shooter but also get to the basket on the dribble drive, which Trae is not as skilled at. They're both great players. I'm not saying that Trae is trash. It's just that if I had to choose between one of them to have on the Bulls, I'm going to take Ja Morant. Next up, we've got Kamahini Robinson. Would you rather Wendell Carter Jr. back or Thad Young back? Yeah, to me, this one is pretty easy. Would much rather have Wendell back just because Wendell is only 22 while Thaddeus is 33. Wendell is also playing much better basketball now that he's on the Magic. Doesn't mean that I regret the trade for Vooch. I think that trade was still the right call. But no, Wendell makes way more sense for the Bulls than Thaddeus Young if you're thinking long term. Next, we've got NB. Would you rather Rondo not get hurt in 2017 versus the Celtics or Blatt get caught trying to call a timeout? Oh man, you had to remind us of that missed timeout by Blatt that likely cost the Bulls that series against the Cavs. We were actually just talking about this one recently in another video. But yeah, I mean, I definitely would prefer Blatt getting called for that timeout, which would have meant the Bulls would have gotten a free throw and the ball on a technical foul, which means they would have gone up 3-1 in that series and likely would have gone on to the finals because, in my opinion, the Hawks were pretenders that year after the Cavs swept them in the Eastern Conference Finals. Rondo not getting hurt, I mean, yes, the Bulls would have probably beat the Celtics because they were already up 2-0 against Boston, winning both games in Boston, but they were the 8th seed that year. They also had Hoiberg as their head coach, and they likely wouldn't have made it past the second round after that. I mean, that team overall just did not fit well together. So no, I would much rather have preferred the Blatt timeout because you're talking about the Bulls seeing the NBA Finals for the first time since 1998 versus seeing the Bulls win a first round series, all but to lose in the second round. Next, we've got Christy Ellers. Would you rather the Bulls have drafted Draymond Green or the Bulls have landed Melo? Now, I assume you mean LaMelo Ball, although the more I think about it, maybe you do actually mean Carmelo Anthony because it was around that time that Carmelo was going to join the Bulls. I think it was in 2014, which was after Draymond entered the NBA in 2012, but around the same time. Either way, I'll try and answer it for both since I'm not sure which one you're referring to. The first one is easy. I would much prefer the Bulls having drafted Draymond Green than signing Carmelo Anthony in 2014 to a max contract. Now, it is believed that one of the major rifts the front office of Garpax had with Tom Thibodeau was that Tibbs really wanted to draft Draymond Green in 2012 when the Bulls had the 29th pick in the draft, but the front office said he was crazy and that was way too early for drafting Draymond, and Garpax of course chose to draft Marquise Teague instead. Yeah, Draymond ended up getting selected 35th overall and of course went on to be an All-NBA player while Teague was out of the league just a few years later. But anyway, back to your scenario, if we're talking about LaMelo Ball, knowing that we would have had Draymond all these years since 2012 or not having Draymond like we do now, but now having LaMelo Ball, yeah, I'd have to take LaMelo Ball just because there was so much potential for him to be a franchise player that as great as Draymond is, I'm not sure he would have become the player we know today if he wasn't in the perfect system surrounded by strong offensive players like he has in Golden State where, his offense wouldn't be needed and he could solely focus on defense. So in this scenario, I'm going to go with LaMelo Ball over drafting Draymond Green. Next, we've got Red Fire Wolf 23. Would you rather trade for Damian Lillard or Steph Curry if you had the chance? Oh man, that's a really, really hard one. Now, I'm going to assume you're talking about trading them as of right now, the players that we know of today, which obviously both are top 10 players in the league. Now, I think most people will say that I'm crazy for this answer, but if I had to choose between the two, I'm actually going to go with Damian Lillard, and it's for a few reasons. The main reason being that Lillard is younger. I know it's only by 2 years. Steph is 33. He's actually going to be 34 soon, while Lillard is 31. But Lillard could likely give you some more years of his prime than Curry otherwise would. And yes, Curry is, as of right now, the better player between the two. He's a better shooter, a better pure scorer, and a better all-around ball handler. But Lillard, even though I know he's kind of struggled so far this season, is bigger than Curry size-wise. So even though Lillard also isn't the best defender like Curry, he has the ability to get in people's way because of his larger physique. Lillard is also a better playmaker than Curry is, and Lillard is also more athletic and quicker than Curry is as well. Honestly, though, this one is so close that really the main difference I'm going with is that Lillard is 2 years younger than Steph Curry. And, you know, the more good years that you can get from a player, the better, in my opinion. Next, we've got Barry. Would you rather have Zach Lavine become an elite playmaker, i.e. Chris Paul, or a lockdown defender, i.e. Kawhi or Paul George? Which would be better for this team? Well, either one of those would be incredible because the Bulls could benefit a lot from either of those skills. But if I had to choose, I'm going to go with rather having him be a lockdown defender. Because Zach, as a shooting guard, you don't necessarily need him to be a Chris Paul level playmaker. That's why you have a point guard to be that floor general and playmaker for the team. And so to have Lavine be the offensive player we know today, but also being an elite lockdown defender like Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, I mean, he would be a superstar. And if the Bulls had an elite defender like Lavine and Lonzo in the backcourt to go along with Caruso coming off the bench, forget about it. This team would be incredible. I mean, I think we all know that Lavine, if he was even an above average defender, he would be a top 10 player in this league. It's his lack of defense that really sets him apart in that category of elite players. Let's do one more, and this is a twofer for B Cubs 1948, and I wanted to include this one as well because it was really good, and I'm pretty sure most of you aren't going to like my answer, but would you rather re-sign Zach or sign Yokitch in 2023, but we don't keep Zach? And guys, I hate to say it, but I would rather sign Yokitch in 2023. Now, don't get me wrong, losing Zach would be terrible. Having him walk for nothing this upcoming season would be a huge blow to the Bulls. However, you're talking about an MVP superstar caliber level player who is still young and in his prime in Nikola Yokitch, arguably the best big man in the game right now next to Joel Embiid. Like, I don't know how you can say no to that. Yes, you're basically going to have one season without Lavine before you get Yokitch in 2023, but unlike if we lost Lavine before, we would now have DeRozan still and Lonzo Ball to fall back on. So it's not like the Bulls would be completely awful for that one season. And then you're talking about having Yokitch the following year. Yeah, I'm going to take that. Anyway, guys, I'll end it there for this episode of Would You Rather. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to see more of these, maybe perhaps going back and forth between the Would You Rather and Hot Takes, as I feel the Hot Takes series is getting a little redundant at this point. So let me know in the comments what you guys would prefer to see. And feel free to submit some more of your Would You Rather scenarios while you're at it. And of course, don't forget the Bulls will be taking on the Magic tonight. Feel free to join the live chat for that. And guys, as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I will catch you in the next one.